what is being ignored by the media, but will be studied by historians. I certainly think that smartphone use will be one of those. There was that 5 deathbed regrets of the dying. I wish I'd kept in touch with my friends. I wish I hadn't worked so much. I wish I'd allowed myself to be happy. I wish I'd lived the life I wanted and not the life that other people had for me, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I would bet everything that I'm worth that within the next couple of decades, I wish I'd spent less time on my phone.
Yeah.
Would be one of those.
No doubt.
100%.
Well, your time is so valuable. And how do you have 5 extra hours a day? Well, look at your screen time. It'll say 5 hours.
We were talking about this before we got started, that you have the same number of hours that somebody did 100 years ago. But the average amount of time that Americans spend on screens is 8 hours at the moment. The average time that they... 8 on screens, all screens. The average time they spend asleep is 6.5. So people are sleeping for 1.5 hours less than they spend the time on their phone. And
what are you getting out of it?
Well,
nothing tangible.
It's so hard. It's so hard. It's so addicting. It's designed to be addicting. I mean, you've had Tristan Harris on here. You know, the way, the variable schedule reward that tempts you, that keeps you there. You don't know what's going to happen. This is so interesting.
Yep.
I had the guy who wrote, Stuart Russell, he wrote the original AI textbook. It's translated into 70 languages around the world. He taught me this really interesting thing about how the algorithms work. So we know the job of the algorithm is to predict what you want to click on, right? So what it wants to do is get better at working out what Joe likes on his YouTube feed or on his Instagram feed or whatever. But there's actually 2 ways that it can become more accurate at being able to predict what you're going to click on. The first one is to be better at providing you with things that you'll select. The second one is nudging your preferences so that you are more easy to predict. Because if you just give something the optimizing function of cause Joe to click on a thing and stick about with like click through and watch time, if you get it to do that, it'll just find any route. It's not bounded by, and you must make sure that it's his existing preferences. You can't change his preferences. But this is one of the reasons I think why polarization has increased. Not just that edge cases get used, it pushes people further apart, they get put off into their silos, echo chambers, recursive stuff, blah, blah, blah. I think a big part of it is just the algorithms find it easier to be able to predict you, which gives them an incentive. Now, it's not like a conscious incentive,
right,
but it gives you this incentive to be pushed out to the sides. And there's this worry about, I learned about this idea called knowingness. So polarization, everyone thinks it's a big deal, and I think it is, it's a big problem. But knowingness is like an uncurious intellectual insulation. So people believe that they know the answer to the question before the question has even been asked. I know what the outcome is. I know what the answer is before you've even asked me the question. And what's interesting about this epidemic of knowingness we have at the moment is if the problem is poor information, you can fix it typically with better information. I'll give you a better quality of information, but if the problem is knowingness, you are insulated from ever updating your beliefs because no amount of existing new information is going to actually help you. There's this really cool quote that said, most people think that they are thinking when all they are doing is rearranging their prejudices. Ooh. And I think that explains why the culture war is so boring. Culture war is largely super boring because both sides act as if the facts are already settled whilst not agreeing on the facts.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how is it that we've got to the stage where people's their prejudices just get moved around until they can come up with the outcome that they already wanted before you even ask the question about the thing that you're talking about? That's the situation we end up with, and I think it explains why the culture wars feel so samey and nothing really ever seems to move. Like it's not moved forward. It goes at such a snail's pace. The news is operating at light speed, and the way that we move forward with our conceptual understanding of the world is moving forward at a snail's pace. Well, how are these two things happening together?
Well, it's technological advance, right? Technological advance is so much greater and faster than biological advance. This is the scariest thing that leads us down the road to AI, is that as we are so limited in our biological ability to evolve, biological evolution takes so long, cultural evolution takes so long, whereas technological evolution is almost instantaneous. And we are being overrun by this thing that's captivated our attention. I was talking about this the other day. I was like, imagine if there was a drug that made you stare at your hand for 6 hours a day. You'd be like, keep me the fuck away from that drug. But that's what your phone's doing. Mostly you're getting nothing. Occasionally you get a funny meme. You know, if I looked at the amount of time that I spend online on a given day and how much of it is really fascinating to me. Well, every now and then you get a story like that story about the whole universe might be inside of a black hole. And then I'm on a rabbit
pyramid. So there's this interesting insight about that.
There's a few things you'll get, but I kind of feel like you will get those if you're offline just by other people being online. They'll send it to you. Like you're almost better off.
You don't need to be the one doing the first pass scouring.
Exactly. Your resources are better utilized by not doing that.
Did you see that? It was a guy who removed people's phones from their hands. It was a photographer who went around, I think it was maybe New York City, and he took photos of people and then CGI'd the phones out. You know, you're talking about, imagine if there was this thing and it made you stare at your hand. He actually did it. So it shows just how absurd it is. You know, you've got an entire train carriage on the subway on the underground.
And everyone's staring at them.
And it's just people staring down at their hands like this. And it needs that to sort of throw the absurdity into it. But then on the flip side, if you don't live with your parents, you're in a different city, you work a job that you're not that enamored by, maybe your health's good, maybe it's not so good, you're a little bit worried about stuff, you're kind of bored a lot of the time, you need to be sedated.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, wow. Oh, those people just sitting there staring. Oh, that's so crazy.
Jimmy, go back up to that one with the kid.
Wow.
It wasn't that long. This was 2015. In 2012, I started trying to take pictures of people in public looking at their phones, and it wasn't that common then. So it wasn't that.
Well, that's like when social media kicked off. In the beginning, no one was on it.
You'd see it.
It's like most people weren't even on Twitter. They're like, why would I be on that? And, you know, people were using it to promote things, and then they started using it to elevate their profile, and then people became influencers. And once people became influencers, and once people, like a regular person, get a couple of million followers, then all of a sudden you get sponsors, and that's your job now.